The grand staircase in the hotel gleamed under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers, its polished marble steps reflecting the opulence of the city's most luxurious establishment. Guests moved gracefully through the lobby, some in lively conversations, others attending an upscale event. Bellboys and hotel staff hurried about, assisting with luggage, directing visitors, and ensuring everything was in perfect order. Among the workers, a 9-year-old black boy scurried around the hotel's vast space, dressed in an oversized bellboy uniform, his small frame strained under the weight of the bags he carried. Despite the challenges of his humble background, he kept his head high, knowing that this job allowed him to dream of a better life. His mother worked tirelessly, and he did his part by helping around the house. Every tip he earned was a small victory, a step toward a future beyond his neighborhood. The hotel's luxurious atmosphere was in stark contrast to the boy's modest beginnings. He didn't belong to the elite who enjoyed private jets and exclusive dinners, but he didn't mind. His world, made up of narrow alleyways and cramped apartments, was where he learned the true value of hard work. Today, he was working at the hotel, moving through the polished floors, silently watching the rich come and go. At that moment, the pregnant wife of a wealthy CEO walked down the grand staircase. The elegance of her presence was undeniable, her expensive attire shining in the lobby's light. But it was the gentle way she cradled her rounded belly that caught everyone's eye. She was attending a business conference, standing by her husband, the head of one of the largest corporations in the country. She seemed graceful and poised, but the heavy load of bags she carried made her movements less steady than usual. The boy noticed her struggle before anyone else. Her steps faltered slightly as she tried to balance the weight of her bags, and as she neared the top of the staircase, he saw the moment when she lost her footing. Her heel caught on the edge of a step. Her hands shot out to steady herself, but it was too late. She lurched forward, her body tilting dangerously as she lost control. The boy acted on instinct. Without hesitation, he dashed toward her, reaching out just in time to grab her. He held on tightly, pulling her back from the edge of the stairs, his small frame straining against the weight. Despite the fire of panic in his chest, he shielded her from the fall, holding her steady with every ounce of strength he had. The crowd gasped in shock as they watched the boy act with incredible bravery. He helped the woman regain her balance, gently guiding her away from the stairs and ensuring she was safe. She shook, still stunned but unharmed. She breathed heavily, her face pale with the shock of what had nearly happened. The boy, though still shaken by the intensity of the moment, stayed calm. He looked up at her, silently asking if she was okay. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice shaky. I could have fallen." But before the boy could respond, murmurs spread through the crowd. A few guests stood nearby, watching the scene unfold with doubtful expressions. One woman, wearing a heavy fur coat, whispered, "Why was he even close to her in the first place?" Another man, dressed in a tailored suit, raised an eyebrow. "How do we know he wasn't the one who caused it? I've never seen him here before." Their whispers carried through the air like a cold wind, their suspicion growing louder. The boy's heart dropped into his stomach. He had just saved someone's life. Yet here he stood, the target of their doubts simply because of his appearance. His uniform marked him as a worker, someone to be dismissed, someone who couldn't possibly have good intentions. But the CEO's wife turned to face them. Her voice was firm, her words cutting through the whispers. "This boy saved me," she said, her gaze sweeping over the crowd. "If not for him, I might not be here right now." The murmurs slowly died down as people realized the truth in her words. The boy stood tall, despite the sting of their judgment. He had done what was right, and nothing could change that. The CEO's wife, still shaken but grateful, looked at him with sincerity in her eyes. She reached out and placed a hand on his shoulder, her voice soft but steady. "Thank you. You saved my life today." The boy nodded quietly, his mind racing. He hadn't expected any thanks, but this moment was bigger than what anyone could imagine. He wasn't just a bellboy in that moment. He was a hero. The whispers faded as the truth sank in, but what would happen next would change everything. The boy's life is shaped by humble circumstances. Working as a bellboy in the hotel is not just a job for him. It's a means to help support his single mother who works long hours as a housekeeper. Despite the financial hardships his family faces, the boy remains determined to rise above his circumstances. His mother's resilience instills in him the belief that, with enough effort, a better life is possible. Every day at the hotel, he gives his best, doing everything from delivering luggage to helping guests find their rooms, even if no one notices. He is always polite, patient, and eager to assist. Though he knows he is often overlooked, a nameless worker in the background of the hotel's lavish world. Despite being only 9 years old, the boy has already learned the value of hard work. His dream is simple: attend school, receive an education, and eventually leave behind his current life of struggle. But this dream feels far away, especially when he's constantly reminded by others that his future is shaped by his present. His background, his age, and his position as a bellboy all make him an easy target for underestimation. People rarely take the time to see past his uniform, not realizing the determination in his heart. Yet every day he shows up with a bright smile, ready to face whatever tasks lie ahead. His dream is not only about escaping his situation, but about finding dignity and value in his work, no matter how invisible it may seem to others. The CEO's wife, a woman of immense wealth and influence, has everything that money can buy. From a mansion filled with luxury to a high-profile life spent in the company of business magnates, her world is one of comfort and privilege. But beneath this glamorous exterior lies the weight of her pregnancy and the intense pressure of being married to one of the most powerful businessmen in the country. While she has everything she could ever want, she's often caught in the shadows of her husband's success, expected to play the role of a perfect wife and mother-to-be. Her pregnancy, though a blessing, adds a layer of vulnerability that she navigates alone, surrounded by the demands of both her family and society's expectations. Despite her position in life, the CEO's wife has a rare quality that sets her apart from others in her circle: empathy. She is not blind to the disparities around her and often takes time to speak with the hotel staff. She listens to their stories, asks about their families, and thanks them for their hard work. She sees their lives as more than just jobs. She acknowledges their struggles and treats them with the respect they deserve. This is why, when the boy saves her from falling, she immediately expresses her gratitude. It's not just a casual thank you. It's a sincere acknowledgement of the boy's quick thinking and bravery. She sees him not just as a bellboy, but as someone who showed real courage when it mattered most. As the boy stands in the aftermath of his heroic act, the praise he receives is tainted by the skeptical whispers of some of the hotel guests. They look at him, his small, unpolished frame in a bellboy's uniform, and see only what they want to see: a child who doesn't belong in the company of people like them. Their bias leads them to question his actions. How could someone like him know what to do in a situation like that? One woman remarks under her breath. Another guest, a man in a designer suit, wonders aloud, did he even know what was going on, or was he just lucky? They assume that the boy's background and appearance disqualify him from being a hero, overlooking the fact that he acted without hesitation to save the CEO's wife. As the CEO's wife praises the boy for his bravery, the whispering becomes louder. Some guests mutter things like, "It was probably just an accident," or "He might have just been in the right place at the right time." These comments are rooted in the guests' racial prejudices and class biases. Their assumptions about the boy's intelligence, motives, and capabilities are filtered through a lens of racial inequality. They cannot accept that someone from his background could be capable of such quick thinking and selflessness. In their eyes, a child like him couldn't possibly possess the skill to save a life, regardless of the evidence standing in front of them. The boy's heart raced as he saw the CEO's wife stumble on the grand staircase. Her bags, heavy in her hands, threw off her balance, and she began to lose her footing. Without thinking, the boy dashed forward, reaching her just in time. With quick reflexes, he caught her by the waist, steadying her and preventing her from tumbling down the stairs. His actions were swift, and the crowd, initially in shock, watched in awe as he safely guided her to the bottom. The CEO's wife, shaken but unharmed, breathed a sigh of relief. She looked at the boy, her eyes wide with gratitude, and thanked him profusely. "You saved me." "Thank you so much," she said, her voice trembling. The boy, a little embarrassed by the attention, simply nodded. He didn't need thanks. He had acted because it was the right thing to do. But just as she turned to speak to others, murmurs from the crowd began to grow louder. Despite the boy's clear act of heroism, some of the wealthier guests couldn't help but doubt his intentions. The murmurs grew into whispers, with a few guests casting skeptical glances toward the boy. How did he even know what to do? One woman whispered to another, her eyes narrowed in suspicion. "He's just a bellboy, isn't he? How would he know how to save her from falling?" Another man, adjusting his designer suit, added, "Probably just a fluke. He probably wasn't even trying to help. It just happened that way." Their words, laced with disbelief and judgment, hung in the air like a thick cloud of suspicion. The boy stood there, silently listening, his stomach tightening with embarrassment. The praise that had been showered on him moments before now felt hollow, overshadowed by the questioning stares and whispered comments. He had done what anyone would do in that situation, but to these people, his background and role as a bellboy seemed to cast doubt on his abilities. The CEO's wife, noticing the shift in the atmosphere, looked around at the guests, her face hardening slightly. She knew what they were implying. But the boy didn't react. He stood tall, maintaining his composure, despite the quiet judgment that surrounded him. He wasn't concerned with their opinions. He had done his duty, and that was enough. As the boy turned to leave, continuing with his duties as though nothing had happened, the tension in the room grew. The whispers were still there, but the boy was resolute. He was proud of his actions, and no one could take that away from him. He may not have been dressed in a suit or carried the same privileges as those around him, but in that moment, he had proven his worth through action. Have you ever had your intentions doubted because of your background? Do you think we still see prejudice today? Let us know where you're watching from and what time it is as we reflect on this powerful story of bravery, kindness, and overcoming bias. The boy, now walking away from the scene, didn't let the whispers affect him. He had learned long ago that some people would never see him for who he truly was. But one thing was certain. In that moment, his actions spoke louder than any doubt. The CEO's wife, sensing the tension and the murmurs among the guests, took a deep breath and stepped forward. With a calm yet firm voice, she addressed the crowd, her words carrying authority. "This young man saved my life today," she began, looking directly at the boy, who stood quietly off to the side. "I was in danger, and he acted with incredible quick thinking and courage. Without him, I could have been seriously injured, if not worse." Her voice softened as she looked at him, her gratitude unmistakable. The murmurs from the crowd quieted for a moment, but before anyone could respond, the CEO, who had overheard the conversation, joined his wife at the front. His presence alone commanded attention, and the room grew even quieter. He addressed the guests, his tone resolute. "This boy is a hero," the CEO said, pointing at the boy standing there, still humble in his demeanor. "Let's not overlook his courage simply because of his background. What matters is that his actions saved my wife's life. That's what counts." The CEO's voice was firm, his words cutting through the whispers that had filled the room earlier. The boy, though feeling a rush of pride, didn't know how to react to the public praise. He had always been taught to stay humble, but in that moment, the recognition felt like a small victory in a world that had often overlooked him. The CEO continued, turning his attention back to the boy. "I want to offer you more than just my gratitude," he said, a change in his voice that hinted at a genuine desire to make a difference. "I'm offering you a scholarship, full financial support for your education. It's the least I can do for someone who showed so much bravery today. You deserve an opportunity to rise above your current circumstances, and I want to ensure you have that chance." The room, which had been filled with doubt and judgment just moments earlier, was now silent. The boy's heart skipped a beat. A scholarship, an education. This was everything he had dreamed of, but never thought possible. The weight of the offer was overwhelming, and for a moment he felt speechless. As the CEO's words settled in, the bystanders began to realize the gravity of the situation. The whispers of doubt that had once clouded their perception now felt foolish. The CEO's public support had shifted the power dynamic in the room, and many of those who had questioned the boy's intentions now found themselves feeling embarrassed. Some murmured apologies to the boy, acknowledging their earlier judgment, but others, still uncomfortable with the shift in power, remained silent, unsure of how to react. The boy, for his part, didn't hold any animosity. He remained humble, nodding in gratitude but saying little. He knew the world wasn't always fair, but in that moment, he realized that actions truly spoke louder than words. And sometimes, the truth had a way of cutting through even the thickest layers of prejudice. As the room continued to settle, the boy stood tall, but his heart swelled with pride, not for the scholarship, but for the knowledge that, in a world filled with doubt and judgment, he had proven that heroism could come from anywhere, even the most unexpected places. The CEO's offer to fund the boy's education was the beginning of a transformation that would forever change his life. As soon as the news spread, the boy's family received the resources they needed to improve their living situation. The financial support provided by the CEO allowed his mother to take fewer shifts, reducing the strain on their household. For the first time in years, they could breathe a little easier. The boy's mother, overwhelmed with gratitude, expressed her thanks to the CEO and his wife repeatedly, though words could never fully capture the magnitude of their kindness. At the hotel, the shift in the boy's status was just as profound. Now that the management had recognized his bravery and intelligence, they began to offer him more responsibility. No longer was he simply a bellboy, a job he had always performed with diligence and dedication. The hotel's management started assigning him tasks that allowed him to interact with guests, and he quickly impressed everyone with his professionalism and courtesy. The boy's work ethic and humility made him a standout employee, earning him the respect of his colleagues and guests alike. The CEO and his wife, true to their word, became powerful advocates for the boy's future. They took a hands-on approach, ensuring that he had access to the best educational resources available. The wife, who had once been a stranger to the boy, now became a mentor, offering advice and encouragement. She also began advocating for more fairness and equal opportunities at the hotel. She saw firsthand how much potential young people like the boy had, and she began urging the management to create more pathways for employees from underprivileged backgrounds to rise within the company. The boy, fueled by the support he had received, became determined to make the most of his opportunities. He knew that this was his chance to change not only his life, but also the lives of others in his community. With each passing day, he focused on his studies, worked hard at the hotel, and set his sights on a future where he could give back to the people who had supported him. The boy's heart was filled with a new sense of purpose. He realized that education and opportunity were powerful tools that could not only change his future but also uplift his community. With his new perspective, the boy began volunteering in his free time, helping others in his neighborhood who faced the same struggles he had once known. He encouraged young people to stay in school, pursue their dreams, and never let their circumstances define them. His story became one of resilience, hope, and the power of second chances. As for the CEO's wife, she made it her mission to fight for fairness and equality, both within the hotel and in the wider community. She spearheaded initiatives to provide scholarships and mentorships for young employees, believing that no one should be held back simply because of where they came from. Her advocacy for these initiatives became a cornerstone of her work, and she found great joy in watching young people rise to meet their full potential, just as the boy had done. Through the combined efforts of the boy, the CEO, and his wife, a ripple effect of positive change began to spread, creating a new culture of opportunity and inclusion. The boy's journey had inspired not only his own transformation, but also the hearts of those who had been part of his story, leaving an indelible mark on everyone involved. The boy's life was transformed in ways he never could have imagined. With the support of the CEO and his wife, he finished his education, earning scholarships and accolades along the way. What began as a simple act of courage turned into a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. As he gained knowledge and experience, the boy became an influential figure in his community, using his platform to advocate for others facing the same struggles he had once known. He often spoke at schools, youth centers, and local organizations, sharing his story of perseverance and hope. The hotel, too, began to see real, lasting change. The CEO's wife worked tirelessly to implement inclusivity initiatives, focusing on giving opportunities to underrepresented groups within the company. She introduced mentorship programs and scholarships for employees who showed promise but lacked the resources to pursue their ambitions. The hotel became a more welcoming and equitable place, where anyone, regardless of background, had the chance to succeed. The boy's story served as a catalyst for the company's cultural shift, showing that when people are given the right opportunities, they can achieve incredible things. The CEO's commitment to diversity and equality had a far-reaching impact. His support not only improved the lives of his employees, but also reshaped the hotel's values. The culture of the company, once built around traditional hierarchies and privilege, now embraced inclusivity and empowerment. Under his leadership, the hotel became a model for corporate responsibility, offering equal opportunities to people from all walks of life. It wasn't just about profits anymore. It was about making a difference in the lives of the people who worked there. Years later, the boy returned to the hotel for a visit, now a young adult. He had made a name for himself, not just through his career but through his advocacy work. He was greeted by familiar faces, many of whom had watched him grow from a humble bellboy to a person of influence. As he walked through the grand entrance of the hotel, the memories flooded back. The polished marble floors, the towering staircase, the place where everything had changed. It all felt different now. Standing at the top of the staircase, where he had once saved the CEO's wife, the boy marveled at how far he had come. The man he had become was a direct result of that single moment of kindness and bravery. It was a moment that had altered the course of his life and the lives of many others. As he gazed out over the hotel lobby, filled with people from all walks of life, he realized that the ripple effects of his actions had reached far beyond the walls of the hotel. The final scene showed the boy, now a confident young man, surrounded by those he had helped, looking back at the staircase and smiling. He had lived the truth of his journey, that sometimes the smallest actions lead to the biggest changes. Final line. Sometimes the smallest actions lead to the biggest changes, and one moment of kindness can turn the tide for an entire life.